संसारजातं सहगणरघुनाथं तं सजीवं साधुवेतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णं चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवत्ता सदेशितारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपेकांत राधाकांत नमस्ते सप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। प्रभु जी कैसे कंटिन्यू करेगा, थोड़ा सा गाइड कर दीजिए। रिपोर्टर श्रीला प्रभुपाद।
कल आप थे ना रिपोर्टर, स्वाति शायद श्रीला प्रभुपाद थे। हाँ तो वहाँ भी रिपोर्टर आई है और आज अनुष्का माता जी को श्रीला प्रभुपाद बना देते हैं।
ओके ओके प्रभु जी,
ठीक है।
रिपोर्टर, where is your following the greatest?
In the United States, Europe, South America, and Australia, and of course in India, there are millions who practice Krishna consciousness.
Can you tell me what the goal of your movement is?
The purpose of this Krishna conscious movement is to awaken man's original consciousness. At the present moment, our consciousness is designated. Someone is thinking, I am an Englishman, or other is thinking, I am an American. Actually, we do not belong to any of these designations. We are all part and parcel of God. That is our real identity. If everyone simply comes to that consciousness, all the problems of the world will be solved. Then we shall come to know that we are one, the same quality of spirit soul. The same quality of spirit soul is within everyone, although it may be in a different dress. That this is the explanation given in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna consciousness is actually a purificatory process. Sarvopadhi vinir muktam. Its purpose is to make people free from all designations. Tatparatvena nirmalam. When our consciousness becomes purified of all designations, the activities we carry out with our purified senses makes us perfect. Eventually, we reach the ideal perfection of human life. Krishna consciousness is also a very simple process. It is not necessary to become a great philosopher, scientist, or whatever. We need only chant the holy name of the Lord, understanding that his personality, his name, and his qualities are all absolute. Krishna consciousness is a great science. Unfortunately, in the universities, there is no department for this science. Therefore, we invite all serious men who are interested in the welfare of human society to understand this great movement and, if possible, take part in it and cooperate with us. The problems of this world will be solved. This is also the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita, the most important and authoritative book of spiritual knowledge. Many of you have heard of the Bhagavad Gita. Our movement is based on it. Our movement is approved by all great acharyas in India. Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, Lord Chaitanya, and so many others. You are all representatives of newspapers, so I ask you to try to understand this movement as far as possible for the good of all human society.
Do you think your movement is the only way to know God?
Yes.
How are you assured of that?
From the authorities and from God, Krishna. Krishna says, Sarv dharman paritajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tam sarv papebhyo mokshashyami ma shucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.66.
Does surrender mean that someone would have to leave his family?
No,
But suppose I were to become an initiate, wouldn't I have to come and live in the temple?
not necessarily.
I can stay at home.
Oh, yes.
What about work? Would I have to give up my job?
No, you would simply have to give up your bad habits and chant the Hare Krishna mantra on these beats. That's all.
Would I have to give any financial support?
No, that is your voluntary wish. If you give, that's all right. And if we don't mind. We do not depend on anyone's financial contribution. We depend on Krishna.
I wouldn't have to give any money at all.
No.
Is this one of the main things that distinguishes the genuine guru from the fake guru?
Yes, a genuine guru is not a businessman. He is a representative of God. Whatever God says, the guru repeats. He does not speak otherwise.
But would you expect to find a real guru, say, traveling in a Rolls Royce and staying in a penthouse suite in a classy hotel?
Sometimes people provide us with a room in a first-class hotel, but we generally stay in our own temples. We have some 100 temples around the world, so we don't require to go to any hotels.
I wasn't trying to make any accusations. I was mainly trying to illustrate that I think your warning is a valid one. There are so many people interested in finding a spiritual life, and at the same time, there are a lot of people interested in cashing in on the guru business.
Are you under the impression that spiritual life means voluntarily accepting poverty?
Well, I don't know.
A poverty-stricken man can be materialistic, and a wealthy man may be very spiritual. Spiritual life does not depend on either poverty or wealth. Spiritual life is transcendental. Consider Arjuna, for instance. Arjuna was a member of a royal family, yet he was a pure devotee of God. And in Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Shri Krishna says, Ivam parampara praptam imam rajasya vidu. This supreme science was received through a chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. In the past, all kings who were saintly understood spiritual science. Therefore, spiritual life does not depend on one's material condition. Whatever a person's material condition may be, he may be a king or a pauper. He can still understand spiritual life. Generally, people who do not know what spiritual life is, and therefore they unnecessarily criticize us. If I asked you what spiritual life is, how would you answer?
Well, I'm not sure.
Although you do not know what spiritual life is, you still say it is this or it is that. But first you should know what spiritual life is. Spiritual life begins when you understand that you are not your body. This is the real beginning of spiritual life. By seeing the difference between yourself and your body, you come to understand that you are a spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi.
Do you think this knowledge should be a part of everyone's education?
Yes, people should first be taught what they are. Are they their bodies or something else? That is the beginning of education. Now everyone is educated to think he is his body. Because someone accidentally gets an American body, he thinks I am an American. This is just like thinking I am a red shirt. Just because you are wearing a red shirt, you are not a red shirt. You are a human being. Similarly, this body is like a shirt or coat over the real person, the spirit soul. If we recognize ourselves simply by our bodily shirt or coat, then we have no spiritual education.
Do you think that such education should be given in schools?
Yes, in schools, colleges, and universities. There is an immense literature on this subject, an immense fund of knowledge. What is actually required is that the leaders of society come forward to understand this movement.
Have you ever had people come to you who had previously been involved with a fake group?
Yes, there are many.
Were their spiritual lives in any way spoiled by the fake gurus?
No, they were genuinely seeking something spiritual, and that was their qualification. God is within everyone's heart, and as soon as someone genuinely seeks Him, He helps that person find a genuine guru.
Have the real gurus like yourself ever tried to put a stop to the false gurus? That is, put pressure on them to put them out of business, so to speak.
No, that is not my purpose. I started this movement simply by chanting Hare Krishna. I chanted in New York in a place called Tompkins Square Park, and soon people began to come to me. In this way, the Krishna consciousness movement gradually developed. Many accepted and many did not accept. Those who are fortunate have accepted.
Don't you feel that people are suspicious because of their experience with the fake gurus? If you went to a quack dentist and he broke your tooth, you might be suspicious about going to another dentist.
Yes, naturally. If you are cheated, you become suspicious. But this does not mean that if you are cheated once, you will always be cheated. You should find someone genuine. But to come to Krishna consciousness, you must be either very fortunate or well aware of the signs. From the Bhagavad Gita, we understand that the genuine seekers are very few. Manushya nam sahareshu kaschid yatati siddhaya. Out of many millions of people, there may be only one who is interested in spiritual life. Generally, people are interested in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So, how can we expect to find many followers? It is not difficult to notice that people have lost their spiritual interest, and almost all those who are actually interested are being cheated by so-called spiritualist. You cannot judge a movement simply by the number of its followers. If one man is genuine, then the movement is successful. It is not question of quantity, but quality.
I wondered how many people you think might have been taken in by fake gurus.
Practically everyone. There is no question of counting everyone.
This would mean thousands of people, wouldn't it?
Millions have been cheated because they want to be cheated. God is omniscient. He can understand your desires. He is within your heart. And if you want to be cheated, God sends you a cheater.
Is it possible for everyone to attain the perfection stage you spoke of previously?
Within a second. Anyone can attain perfection within a second, providing he is willing. The difficulty is that no one is willing. In the Bhagavad Gita 18.66, Krishna says, Sarva dharman paritajya mamekam sharanam brajam. Simply surrender unto me. But who is going to surrender to God? Everyone says, oh, why should I surrender to God? I will be independent. If you simply surrender, it is a second business. That's all. But no one is willing, and that is the difficulty.
When you say that lots of people want to be cheated, do you mean that lots of people want to cry on with their worldly pleasures and at the same time by chanting a mantra or by holding a flower, achieve spiritual life as well? Is this what you mean by wanting to be cheated?
Yes, this is like a patient thinking, I shall continue with my disease and at the same time, I shall become healthy. It is contradictory. The first requirement is that one become educated in spiritual life. Spiritual life is not something one can understand by a few minutes talk. There are many philosophy and theology books, but people are not interested in them. That is the difficulty. For instance, the Srimad Bhagavatam is a very long work. But if you try to read this book, it may take many days to just to understand one line of it. The Bhagavatam describes God, the absolute truth, but people are not interested. And if by chance some becomes a little interested in spiritual life, he wants something immediate and cheap. Therefore, he is cheated. Actually, human life is meant for austerity and penance. That is the way of Vedic Vedic civilization. In Vedic times, they would train boys as brahmacharis. No sex life was allowed at all up to the age of 25. Where is that education now? A brahmachari is a student who lives a life of complete celibacy and obeys the command of his guru at the Gurukul, school of the spiritual master. Now, schools and colleges are teaching sex from the very beginning, and 12 or 13-year-old boys and girls are having sex. How can they have a spiritual life? Spiritual life means voluntarily accepting some austerities for the sake of God realization. That is why we insist on no illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and or intoxication for our initiated students. Without these restrictions, any yoga, meditation, or so called spiritual discipline cannot be genuine. It is simply a business deal between the cheaters and the cheated.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
So we are moving to the next with all the humility at command. His Grace Ashwini Prabhuji.
It is February 1936 in Bombay. The pure devotee, who 3 decades later will become the world-renowned spiritual master of the Krishna conscious movement, glorifies his own spiritual master. Here we learn the time-honored meaning of the spiritual master, the disciple, and their relationship. Sakshat haritvena samasta shastre uktasya dhava bhavet eva sadvi kintu prabhurya priyayutasya vande guru shri charanavindam. In the revealed scriptures, it is declared that the spiritual master should be worshipped like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this injunction is obeyed by pure devotees of the Lord. The spiritual master is the most confidential servant of the Lord. Thus, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of our spiritual master.
Yes, Naveen Prabhuji.
Gentlemen, on behalf of the members of the Bombay branch of the Gaudiya Mathas, let me welcome you all because you have so kindly joined us tonight in our congregational offerings of homage to the lotus feet of the world teacher Acharya Deva, who is the founder of this Gaudiya mission and is the president Acharya of Sri Sri Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. I mean my eternal divine master, Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Gosvami Maharaj.
His Grace Dashavta Prabhu.
Yes, Guruji. 62 years ago, on the auspicious day, the Acharya Dev made his appearance by the call of Thakur Bhaktivedanta at Sri Kshetra Jagannath Dham at Puri.
Yes, please continue, Prabhuji.
Yes, Guruji. Gentlemen, the offering of such an homage as has been arranged this evening to the Acharya Dev is not a sectarian concern. For when we speak of the fundamental principle of Gurudev or Acharya Dev, we speak of something that is of universal application. There does not arise any questions of discriminating my Guru from yours or anyone else. There is only one Guru who appears in an infinity of forms to teach you, me, and all others.
Swati Mataji.
The Guru or Acharya Dev, as we learn from the bona fide scriptures, delivers the message of the absolute world, the transcendental abode of the absolute personality, where everything non-differentially serves the absolute truth. We have heard so many times, Mahajano Yena Gatasa Pantha, traverse the trail which your previous Acharya has passed. But we have hardly tried to understand the real purport of this shloka if we scrutinizingly study this proposition. We understand that the Mahajan is one and the royal road to the transcendental world is also one. In the Munduka Upanishad 1.2.12 it is said, Tad vijinartham sa gurum eva bhigachet samit pani srotriyam brahma nishtham. In order to learn the transcendental science, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master in disciplic succession, who is fixed in the absolute truth.
Tanak.
Thus, it has been enjoined herewith that in order to receive that transcendental knowledge, one must approach the Guru. Therefore, if the absolute truth is one, about which we think there is no difference of opinion, the Guru also cannot be two. The Acharya Deva, for whom we have assembled tonight to offer our humble homage, is not the Guru of a sectarian institution or one out of many differing exponents of the truth. On the contrary, he is the Jagat Guru or the Guru of all of us. The only difference is that some obey him wholeheartedly, while others do not obey him directly. Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes. His Grace Ashwini Prabhu.
Yeah. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 7th chapter, 27th shloka, it is said, Acharya mam vijanyam navamanyate karhichit namatya buddhya suseta sarvadeva mayo guru. One should understand the spiritual master to be as good as I am, saith the blessed Lord. Nobody should be jealous of the spiritual master or think of him as an ordinary man, because the spiritual master is the sum total of all demigods. That is, the Acharya has been identified with God himself. He has nothing to do with the affairs of this mundane world. He does not descend here to meddle with the affairs of temporary
Yes.
necessities, but to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. The souls or active or entities who have come here to the material world with the motive of enjoyment by the mind and the five organs of sense perception. He appears before us to reveal the light of the Vedas and to bestow upon us the blessings of full-fledged freedom, after which we should hanker at every step of our life's journey. Full-fledged freedom.
Yes. Naveen Prabhu.
Prabhuji, okay. The transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was first uttered by God to Brahma, the creator of this particular universe. From Brahma, the knowledge descended to Narada, from Narada to Vyasadeva. प्रभु जी आप पढ़ सकते हैं क्या? सॉरी मैं पढ़ नहीं पाऊंगा.
His Grace Dashata Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was first uttered by God to Brahma, the creator of this particular universe. From Brahma, the knowledge descended to Narada, from Narada to Vyasadeva, from Vyasadeva to Madhva, and in this process of disciplic succession, the transcendental knowledge was transmitted by one disciple to another, till it reached Lord Gauranga, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who posed as a disciple and successor of Ishwarpuri, Sri Ishwarpuri. The present Acharya Dev is the 10th disciplic representative from Srila Gosvami, the original representative of Lord Chaitanya, who preached this transcendental tradition in its fullness. The knowledge that we receive from our Gurudev is not different from that imparted by God himself.
Sorry, Prabhu.
No problem. Imparted by God himself and the succession of the Acharyas in the perceptorial line of Brahma. We adore this auspicious day as Sri Vyas Puja Tithi because the Acharya is the living representative of Lord Dev, the divine compiler of the Vedas, the Puranas, and the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Yes, sir. Yes, Swati Mataji.
One who interprets the divine sound or Shabd Brahma,
Yes.
Shabd Brahma by his perfect sense perception cannot be a real spiritual master, because in the absence of proper disciplinary training under the bona fide Acharya, the interpreter is sure to differ from Vyasadeva as the Mayavadis do. Srila Vyasadeva is the prime authority of Vedic revelation, and therefore such an irrelevant interpreter cannot be accepted as the Guru or Acharya. Howsoever equipped he may be with all the acquirements of material knowledge, as it is said in the Padam Puran, Sampradaya vihina ye mantraste nishphala matah. Unless you are initiated by a bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession, the mantra that you might have received is without any effect.
Yes, Kanak.
On the other hand, one who has received the transcendental knowledge by oral reception from the bona fide preceptor in the disciplic chain, and who has sincere regard for the real Acharya, one needs to enlighten with the revealed knowledge of the Vedas. But this knowledge is permanently sealed to the cognitive approach of the empiricist, as it is said in the Sheshvatra Upanishad 6.23, Yasva Deva Para Bhakti Yata Deva Tatha Gaurav Taste Kathya He Artha Prakasante Mahatma. Only up to those great souls who simultaneously have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Ashwini, Prabhuji, should we continue or stop here?
We can stop here, we can discuss. Probably 8:25 पे stop कर देंगे हम लोग, 5 मिनट discuss कर सकते हैं.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we can start with yes, Deepak. Suggest the Shabda you want to say.
यस प्रभु जी, एक पॉइंट तो मुझे अच्छा लगा था जहाँ पे प्रभुपाद जी रिपोर्टर को बता रहे थे कि जैसे रिपोर्टर ने क्वेश्चन किया था कि नहीं वो क्या था, अच्छा मैं दूसरा पॉइंट बताता हूँ, जब वो याद नहीं आ रहा एग्जैक्टली मैंने लिखा। तो दूसरा पॉइंट ये था कि प्रभुपाद जी बता रहे थे कि हमें डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं करना चाहिए गुरुओं में। जैसे जब हम दीक्षा ले लेते तो फिर क्या होता है कि हम डिस्क्रिमिनेट करने लग जाते कि मैं तो अब मेरा दीक्षा हो गया तो मैं बस इनसे ही सुनूंगा, ऐसे ही सुनूंगा। तो प्रभुपाद जी बता रहे थे कि हम गुरु जो इन्फिनिटी गुरु हैं वो एक ही हैं, कृष्णा हिमसेल्फ, बट उनके फॉर्म, उनके रिप्रेजेंटेटिव कई सारे हैं। तो हम शिक्षा लेने के लिए हम कहीं से भी, किन्हीं से भी शिक्षा ले सकते हैं। ऑथेंटिक जो गुरु हैं, जैसे इस्कॉन में देखते हैं कई सारे सुपर डिसाइपल्स हैं, तो हम शिक्षा किन्हीं से भी ले सकते हैं, लेकिन शिक्षा लेने की जब बात आती है तो हम किन्हीं एक को चुन सकते हैं। तो हमें डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं करना चाहिए कि मैं तो इनसे नहीं सुनूंगा, मेरे गुरु नहीं है, तो ऐसा हमें डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं करना चाहिए। यस, दैट इज माय पॉइंट।
थैंक यू प्रभु। मेरे कुछ पॉइंट्स हैं कि कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस का पर्पस क्या है। उसने प्रभुपाद बताया कि इसका पर्पस यही है कि टू गेट फ्री फ्रॉम ऑल द डेजिग्नेशन, कि आई एम इंडियन, आई एम इंग्लिशमैन, या फिर आई एम फ्रॉम दिस कास्ट, या फिर आई एम एट दिस पोजीशन। तो कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस का पर्पस ये है कि सारी डेजिग्नेशन से फ्री करना, और मतलब टू रियलाइज आवर eternal designation, that is the servitor of the Lord Shri Krishna. And प्रभुपाद उसमें ये भी बोले कि मतलब चैंटिंग का इम्पोर्टेंस इतना ज़्यादा है कि प्रभुपाद ये भी बोले कि we don't want any philosopher, any scientist or any doctor. We just need someone who can chant Hare Krishna. तो प्रभुपाद उसमें ये भी बोले कि हमें क्वांटिटी नहीं क्वालिटी चाहिए। तो इट मीन्स मतलब अगर इन दोनों को रिलेट करें तो वी कैन कंक्लूड दैट कि क्वालिटी कैसे आ सकती है। क्वालिटी आप कितना मटेरियल एजुकेशन ले लो उससे कभी नहीं आएगी, लेकिन अगर कुछ चांटिंग कर रहा है प्रॉपरली अंडर गाइडेंस, तो दैट इज द बेस्ट वे, टू गेट प्यूरिफाइड और टू सर्व द कृष्णा, और वो दैट इज आल्सो द टॉप मोस्ट क्वालिफिकेशन। यस, दैट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माय साइड। एंड अनुष्का माता जी, यू वांट टू से समथिंग?
जी प्रोजे वो जब हम एक पॉइंट था जब वो बता रहे थे प्रभुपाद जी कि इट डज नॉट डिपेंड कि पर्सन वेल्दी है या नहीं, स्पिरिचुअलिटी तो कोई भी परस्यू कर सकता है। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि वेल्दी लोग या जो वेल्दी नहीं है वो नहीं कर, मतलब उनमें से सिर्फ वेल्दी लोग कर सकते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है, कोई भी कर सकता है। अर्जुन का एग्जाम्पल भी दिया था उन्होंने। तो और एक पॉइंट ये भी था, स्पिरिचुअल एजुकेशन को हमें ऐड करना चाहिए अपने ये मटेरियल एजुकेशन के अंदर। तो स्टार्टिंग में ये अपने बारे में हमें पता होना चाहिए, लाइक बॉडी लेवल पे नहीं, जो हम स्टार्टिंग से पढ़ रहे हैं में। और एक पॉइंट हाँ प्रभु जी ये भी था, जो फेक गुरु के बारे में जब पढ़ रहे थे तो एक पॉइंट आया था जब प्रभुपाद जी बता रहे थे कि गॉड हेल्प करते हैं, अगर कोई जेन्युइनली करना चाहता है, स्पिरिचुअलिटी में आना चाहता है, तो गॉड हेल्प करते हैं, चाहे अगर बस।
Thank you, Mataji. Kanak, you want to share something?
Yes, I would like to add one point. Prabhupada ने बोला था कि मतलब to follow a bhakti we have to get free from all the designations. मतलब जो भी tags हम carry कर रहे हैं उससे हमें free होना पड़ेगा, तभी हम एक proper भक्ति follow कर पाएंगे। तो ये वाला point मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा था। Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, His Grace Ashwini Guruji. Want to share something?
मुझे ये पॉइंट अच्छा लगा जिसमें मटेरियल एजुकेशन के बारे में बात बता रहे हैं कि मटेरियल एजुकेशन क्या है, तो हम लोगों को ये सिखा रही है कि यू आर द बॉडी। तो इससे पहले भी कल हम लोग जैसे पढ़े थे कि हम लोग जो वैदिक ज्ञान लेते हैं वो डिसेंडिंग प्रोसेस में लेते हैं। ये कृष्ण ने बताया ब्रह्मा जी को, ब्रह्मा जी ने नारद जी को, नारद जी ने व्यासदेव जी को, व्यासदेव जी के माध्यम से बाकी भक्तों को, और वो परम आचार्यों के माध्यम से हम लोगों को मिल रहा है। तो इस तरह से हम लोगों को ना परफेक्ट नॉलेज मिलती है। व्हाई? बिकॉज वी आर फॉलोइंग द परफेक्ट सोर्स विच कृष्णा। बट मटेरियल एजुकेशन में देखते हैं कि डिसेंडिंग वे में, असेंडिंग वे में सिखाया जाता है। एक्सपेरिमेंट करते हैं, कुछ एक्सपेरिमेंट कर रहे हैं पर कुछ और निकल के आ गया, फिर उसको बताने लगे कि ये है एक्चुअली। जैसे मान लीजिए स्टार्टिंग में पॉलिथीन वगैरह का था, एक्सपेरिमेंट कुछ और कर रहे थे और अचानक से कुछ ऐसा आइटम निकल के आया जिसे खींच सकते हैं। तो बोला कि ये तो काफी अच्छा है, इसे तो हम बैग की तरह यूज कर सकते हैं। तो एजुकेशन ने यही सिखाना शुरू कर दिया, मटेरियल एजुकेशन ने। बाद में पता चला कि ये बहुत खतरनाक प्रोडक्ट है, ये तो डिस्ट्रॉय भी नहीं होता है, और अगर इसे चलाते हैं तो इसकी इससे जो आग निकलती है वो भी बहुत डेंजरस है। तो इस तरह से मटेरियल एजुकेशन हम देखते हैं कि वो जो उसका जो असेंडिंग प्रोसेस है जिसमें एक्सपेरिमेंट के बेसिस पे चलते हैं, उसमें परफेक्शन नहीं है, और वो आपको सिर्फ बॉडी लेवल पर रखता है। अब उसका प्रॉब्लम बॉडी लेवल पर रखने का क्या है कि एक तो नॉलेज परफेक्ट नहीं है, और दूसरा प्रॉब्लम उसका सबसे बड़ा क्या है कि वो आपको हैप्पीनेस देता ही नहीं है। तो हम देखते भी हैं वो कि आईएएस पीसीएस बन जाओ, डॉक्टर बन जाओ, कितने बड़ा आप उससे बन जाए, बट नो वन कैन से दैट आई एम वेरी हैप्पी। Even in Krishna conscious movement, who is perfectly following Krishna consciousness, even he is not a rich person, he can say yes, I am very happy. So ये point काफी मुझे अच्छा लगा।
Thank you so much, Guruji. Anything anyone wants to add?
Yes, Prabhuji, just one last point.
Yes.
तो जैसे प्रभुपाद जी और रिपोर्टर की कॉन्वर्सेशन चल रही थी, तो रिपोर्टर पूछ रहे थे कि कौन से जुड़ सकता है, तो प्रभुपाद जी ने बताया था कि कोई भी जुड़ सकता है। और फिर रिपोर्टर ने पूछा था कि क्या उसके लिए हमें कुछ मतलब देना पड़ता है क्या लोगों को, जैसे पैसे वगैरह। तो प्रभुपाद जी बता रहे थे कि नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है, मतलब उनकी चॉइस है, वो अगर अपने फ्री विल से देना चाहें तो दे सकते हैं, नहीं तो ऐसा नहीं है, हम उनके डोनेशन पे डिपेंडेंट हैं। हमारा जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, इस्कॉन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जो उनके उस पर डिपेंडेंट है, वो हम जो हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है वो पूरा कृष्ण पर डिपेंडेंट है। तो यहाँ से हम समझ सकते हैं कि जब हम कुछ भी भगवान को देते हैं तो हमें अपना ईगो नहीं लाना चाहिए कि मैं दे रहा हूँ, ऑलरेडी सब कुछ भगवान का ही है। तो हम ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ हम अपना दे रहे हैं, तो भगवान का सब भगवान की सेवा में यूज होना चाहिए। तो ये मुझे पॉइंट अच्छा लगा था बेसिकली।
फनी इंसिडेंट था कि एक बार रिपोर्टर भी प्रभुपाद से पूछ रहे थे कि हाउ मेनी कार्स यू हैव, तो प्रभुपाद बोले कि हाउ मेनी वी हैव। प्रभुपाद टर्न टू हिज डिसाइपल एंड ही सेड हाउ मेनी वी हैव। तो द डिसाइपल सेड 7 कार्स और 6 कार्स, ऐसा कुछ उन्होंने बोला। तो प्रभुपाद से यस वी हैव 6 कार्स। तो फिर रिपोर्टर चुप हुआ थोड़ी देर के लिए, तो प्रभुपाद बोले व्हाई, यू आर जेलस। You are jealous. Our neighbors are also very jealous. They are thinking we are working day and night like us, We have just one car, and these people are simply chanting Hare Krishna, dancing and feasting, and they have 6-7 cars.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything anyone wants to add?
Yes, Prabhuji, just one point quickly.
Please.
Actually, one point. I really like how Prabhupada introduces Guru Maharaj. Yeah, that was really um, touching in a way. I felt, yeah. So that also tells us how much. I mean, we have seen in lectures, we've heard in lectures and read everywhere. But the way he introduced, he was really, really, really so much humbled and um, has a lot of appreciation for his Guru Maharaj. Yeah, he never even he became so much a big guru, and and he had thousands and thousands and disciples worldwide. But he always, that ego or that ahankar, whatever the term you may want to use, that never, you know, that bothered or took over Prabhupada. So he always keeps saying whatever he is or he's able to do, it's by only mercy of his Guru.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Anything anyone wants to add? So we can stop. Vancha kalpatru cha kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavane
Pitanam Pavane
vaishnavyo
Vaishnavyo
namo
Namo
namah. Jagad Guru
Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you for joining everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you.